Sergei Karjakin became an international master at just 11 years old. And one of the reasons why he was earmarked out as such a talent wasn't just because of results like that, but because he achieved such great results in World and European Youth Championships at his young age. And at the age of 11 years old, he scored a fantastic 7 out of 9 points in the European Under-14 Championships in 2001 in Chalkidiki. And it was games like this that we're going to see against Lenic, also now a very strong grandmaster with 2600 rating, played in round 4 of this tournament. And it was a very cut and thrust game. We've seen it's going to be a Sicilian najdorf, where we've seen before Karjakin is very well versed in this variation. And here is one example of his opponent really going for him. You know, these top young players really playing sharp, aggressive, tactical chess. So hold on to your seats, because this is one of the most interesting games we're going to look at in this DVD. And as I said, it was a najdorf Sicilian, and characterised again by this a6 move. Lenic decided to play the bishop c4 variation. e6, bishop b3, b5. Notice white played bishop b3 because black was going to play b5 anyway, so the bishop would have to move. Now white could play the Fischer-Sozin attack, which is the castle kingside, and then play f4, f5. This is the idea of Bobby Fischer's. But instead he played with this idea to castle queenside. So bishop g5 and queen f3. And already we see white's quick development turning into something potentially a bit nasty here, because the queen looks all the way down towards the rook on a8. So white is not only threatening to castle and try and do something down the d file potentially, but also to play e5 and just smash black through the centre. Another sort of characteristic of this position is this e6 square, which is what's going to happen in this game actually. And we see that white's knight on d4 and the bishop on b3 are both looking towards that square. So black has to be very careful. There aren't going to be some rip-roaring sacrifices in this game to smash open this najdorf Sicilian position. And if you're going to play an opening like the najdorf, you've got to be very careful to watch out for these sacrifices. And this is what attracts this opening to players of both white and black, because of the nature of the position, very attacking, very sharp chess. So queen b6. Now, the most obvious move, I guess, would be to play bishop b7, and that prevents any e5 break, because of course the pawn is pinned to the queen on f3. But this allows white another attacking idea. Bishop takes e6. This is one for any Sicilian player to know. It's one of the main sort of sacrificing ideas that white has at his disposal. Here white gets 2 pawns for the bishop, and when the queen moves, we can get a third pawn. And this is very dangerous for black to play like this, because, for example, maybe knight h5. I'm not sure whether black should be playing like this, because this is very, very dangerous. So one move can spell the sort of disaster in this opening. So Karjakin is well booked up, and he played queen b6. The idea being that if e5 now, black has the bishop b7 idea in this position, and there's no sacrifice, of course, because the queen is under attack on f3. So Lenic decided, well, I'm just going to develop and castle, and both sides castle, and now h4. So in positions of opposite side castling, both players tend to try and do a pawn or a piece storm on the other side. So here we see white attempting to sort of blast black on the king side, and on the other side of the board we see black trying to blast white on the queen side. And it turns into a kind of race. Who's going to win in this battle? Obviously other tactical factors and so on come into play, but that's the generic idea of both sides here. So h4, very aggressive, not hanging around. Knight d7, h5, and now Karjakin has a difficult decision to make. Does he try and block the h-pawn by playing h6, or does he just leave it? And he decided to play h6. Well, this is the sort of move that black should be very, very careful out, because after the bishop moves, white has now this automatic idea of trying to smash open the g-file towards the black king with g4, g5. And it's going to be very dangerous for black to deal with that. So there's no way that Karjakin would have played that move just straight away. It would have been a very careful decision that he made here. And I think after queen b7, notice, by the way, again, a move like bishop b7 doesn't work. We have this discovered attack on the queen. Tactics all over the place here, aren't there? So queen b7, and if white now plays g4, this was the move where Karjakin realised that he has knight e5, a very important move, because if he tries something like, knight b6, just to show an example, g5, and white is already ready in 2 moves to play something like rook g1 and attempt something down towards g7. And where is black's play down towards white's king? Well, it's a little bit slow, isn't it? So I think that, he can't really play a move like knight b6, but luckily for him he has knight e5 and something like this. And this is going to be a bit dangerous for white now, because the pawn on e4 is hanging. This was the reason why Karjakin played queen b7, attacking down here. So very tactical, very sharp. So Lenic decided queen g3, threatening, I would say it's a club player's favourite, but it's not really, because I think every player loves to play this move, bishop to h6 with the pin down here. It's a favourite of many of my students, and they always seem to try and get it in. So here we see Lenic doing exactly that, but Karjakin just calmly sidestepping. So and now bishop takes e6. What can we say about that? Well, I'm guessing that Lenic decided that if he plays a move like f3 to defend the e-pawn, that he was a bit afraid of something like knight c5, and it's not clear how white is going to make any progress in this position. The point of g4, g5 is now being blockaded by the queen. The queen, of course, could move, but then that's another move you've taken off the attack. Black can do some attacking moves himself, like this, trying to get an attack, and again, out of nowhere, black is the one with the initiative. So Lenic decided to change the nature of the game. Bishop takes e6, just going for it. I think it has to be accepted, and now there's an immediate threat of mate. So how does black deal with it? Well, he went rook g8 and knight f4. It's all extremely dangerous, or it appears to be extremely dangerous. So if you're going to play this kind of opening as black, you need to be very calm under pressure, and that is exactly what Karjakin is, even though he's just 11 years old at the time of this game. Knight e5, knight g6. Now, do we take on g6 or not? Karjakin made the best choice, of course, which was not to take. And the point is, if he does take, the white rook on h1, which was a bit dormant earlier in the game, suddenly has some targets like this. Bishop takes h6 is in the air. There are some dangerous ideas now, and black would have to be very, very careful. The computer says actually black is fine, but a human player would really not want to do that, because you allow your opponents 5 points into the game, and that's just not really a good idea. So Karjakin decided just to sidestep. f4. I think this was the position that Lenic reached in his analysis and probably thought, I've got a bit of initiative going on here. I'm kicking the knight away, bishop comes to d4, got a lot of action down on the king's side, but after b4, we see Karjakin also has some firepower. Black's pieces, black hasn't really done anything wrong, so maybe we could say that Lenic has overstretched, you could say, but I think I'm going to put it down to good defensive play from Karjakin here. And he's remained very calm. He hasn't panicked about playing any rush moves. He's just watched the opponent's threats and dealt with them calmly. So bishop takes f6. Well, if knight e2, we just drop a pawn. So he decided to play bishop f6 and knight d5. But that entails risk, because now black has the attack on the white king and bishop e6. How do we evaluate such a position? Well, black is still a piece up. He, again, out of nowhere has this attack on the white king. Is his own king in danger? Well, the knight on g6 looks very, very aggressive. But as long as the rook on h1 isn't allowed into the game, it's hard to see how white is going to do anything with the queen and knight itself. Capablanca said you should try and attack with a minimum of 3 pieces, and I think that's still relevant here. White only really has the knight and the queen in a good position towards the black king. So I would kind of feel that black is doing very well here. and that was apparent in the game because Queen d3, Rook c8, again developing sensibly, defending the knight on c4, Knight ge7. So Karjakin has to be very careful now. The rooks are attacked, and white is threatening some kind of dangerous discovered attack. If I, for example, play Rook c5 as an example, e5 check, king here, white has a lovely kind of checkmating idea, which is Knight g6 check, king has to go to h7, Knight f8 double check, and checkmate. So here we see white actually having some firepower if black's not careful. So after Knight g7, it's Karjakin's turn to play really sharply. Can he do something here on the white king? And he finds a lovely combination. Knight a3 check. King captures, Rook takes c2. Sacrificing the piece back, but getting this attack on white now. And if king a1, I feel like it's another one of those Karjakin tactics moments. Can you see how Karjakin can win from this position? And the answer is, he just needs to get that bishop into the game. Queen takes e7. And if knight takes e7, checkmate on a2. All fantastically calculated out by Karjakin. So he sees that he would then win a piece in this position with a big attack as well. So in the game, white had to sacrifice the queen, but it wasn't enough after these moves. Just going to quickly go through them because the game is actually over for white in this position. White has simply no attack, and black has threats down the A file or C file like this, and it's going to be game over. So what can we take from that game? If you're going to play a sharp attacking opening, you're going to be in for some heart-stopping moments at some point in one of your games, like he was here. But just remaining calm and not being too flustered by the opponent's tactics, and you can navigate your way through the tactical minefield that was in this game. So an excellent game there from Karjakin against one of his main rivals, and it helped him secure the 7 out of 9 points for in the European Under-14 Championships in 2001.